My journey of using Vim for Java, or more like the summary. This video is going to consist of how I use Vim for Java development. It's going to be split into 5 parts. The first part is I'm going to talk about how and why you shouldn't actually use Vim for Java. The second part is going to be Vim 8.2, and it's just going to be how Vim by itself it's really powerful. The third part I'm going to talk about is NeoVim and how I added plugins to actually increase Vim's functionality. The fourth part is going to be about workflows. I'm going to actually give examples throughout the whole video, but in case I want to add more things, I will add this section here. The last part is my summary or my afterthoughts of actually using Vim and how my experience has been throughout. This video, I'm going to add timestamps in somewhere in this video, so if you guys want to see that, if you guys want to see a specific part, you guys can click on it. It's also going to be in the description if I don't forget. I'm going to actually add my resources in the description bar, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So why shouldn't you actually use Vim for Java development? I think there's a lot of reasons. The first reason, most important reason, is that Java's definition of an object-oriented language. You're going to have to go through multiple files just to change one single thing. And to go through code implementation, you're going to have to know where the file is located. Yes, it's definitely possible to do this in Vim. You're going to have some solutions and you're going to have some built-in tools that actually complete the functions or help you in editing Java code. But at the end of the day, you're just going to have a bunch of random parts working together. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to spend time setting up something that at the end of the day might not work for you. I think you should use what you're most comfortable with. Seriously, I'm not trying to gate block anyone, but I see people setting up Vim to be exactly like something it's not. Or something it wants, or people want to replicate some features in Vim. And some of that, it's really fine. But if you're just trying to have Vim act exactly like another tool, I don't think that's right. Like, you can be spending that time just to be editing code. I think also that Java pretty much wants an IDE. Vim is a text editor. Vim is a text editor. And by itself, it just can't be as good as other IDEs. Like what IDEs offer. IDEs offer so much that that's the reason why they're called an environment. And Vim can act that way, you know, but I don't think it will be ever as good. I think you should just be using the best tool for the job. For example, while I'm taking notes, or right here, the program we're using is Doom Emacs in org mode, and I found it really pretty. And Vim honestly could never do this much. Like, look at all these Unicode symbols. Also, there are various Vim plugins for your IDE or text editor that you might want to consider, and they might work for you. If you're gonna go this way, I suggest learning some sort of build tool, so you don't have to compile classes over and over again. Just a warning, I am a junior in high school. My workflow works for me, but honestly, I have not had a real life experience to validate my setup. So, it works for me. It might work for you. It might not. So why am I making this video if I'm so like against the concept? Honestly, I kind of want to help people. Like, if you're gonna do it anyway, you might as well have a reference to it, and that's where I come from. That's part 1. So I want to show you guys the power of Vim without any configuration, because I'm pretty sure that people just skip it without knowing how powerful Vim is. So I'm going to make a pretty simple linked list class. I'm choosing this because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people know how to make a linked list class in any language. And again, it's pretty simple. So the first variable I want to make in my linked list class is size, because I think it's a good thing to have. And now I'm going to show you one of the first things that people don't really know about. It has its own autocomplete. Well, I'm not necessarily talking about autocomplete in the sense that IDEs give you, but I'm talking about like completing words in or lines that were typed before. So you can use this in insert mode with Control X and Control L to complete a line. Of course, we don't really want to have two variables or two fields with size. So we're gonna create our head now. And then once we're done with that, we can again autocomplete the line, save us some time, and make it tail instead, because I want to make it an extremely simple linked list, and having a tail is going to make it faster or more simpler. Now we want to make a constructor for our linked list, and that again is pretty simple. I'm not really using any Vim features, but you can see this is how you can still write Java code in Vim without any configuration. And we're just putting 0 because, of course, at the start when you create a linked list object, you don't really have any nodes. And then here's another thing. So Control X, Control L autocompletes a line, and then Control X, Control N autocompletes a word. So here we go, private static, and we're now going to create a node class because I used it in the fields, but I haven't defined it. And that's not the correct syntax. And this is just going to be a pretty simple node class that has a field data and another field that it's a pointer to the next node. So instead of doing Control X, Control N, you can just do Control N, and it'll autocomplete the word. The difference is that Control X, Control N looks at the whole context of the line, and then Control N just autocompletes it based on the first term in your path. So again, we're just going to create a simple linked list. And hopefully I remember how to, and this is just a really, this dot data is equal data. Again, not very difficult. And then Control N, and then we're going to make a string, a toString method. Return. And since this is a generic class, we don't actually want to like worry that much about our toString method, because we don't know what kind of objects are going to be in this linked list. And that's how we created a simple node class. But now let's actually insert some nodes. So let's make let's make a an insert method to insert those nodes. So it's a little parameter is going to be data. And then let's actually do this. So we want to create a new node because we have to create it. And let's just call it new node because good variable names are the key to life. And since the constructor of a node only takes one parameter, we're gonna call that. And let's check if it's the first node, then the head's gonna be it's gonna not point to anything. So let's just update the head. And then do it's equal to new node. Else, if it's not empty, that means we have to update the tail. And and then finally we gotta update the tail itself instead of just putting at the end. And that should be it. And then size ++ because we have to deal with the size variable. Let me scroll a bit down. And then we want to make a toString method, but since we already created a toString method before, we can just do Control X, Control L again, then could go do Control P to go back to the previous entry, or Control N and Control P is how you move to the complete list menu. And we're just gonna, of course, make a variable, result to actually return our the toString, or whatever our toString method gives. And we're just gonna again make a new node, current, because we have to move through the whole list. And we're just gonna point it to the head. This is a simple while statement. So a linked list ends once the last node is equal null, because that means it's just a pointer, or it's not pointing to anything. So we're just gonna have to check it until it's equal to null. And again, we just want to append our, since we made a node toString method, we can just use that. So we're just going to use current plus, and just going to do an empty white space just to make it more clear, and update our current node by doing current.next. And that should be it. And of course, we want to return our result, whatever that is, and then do that. And we just completed our linked list. Here's a tip. So a lot of IDEs have prefire, and while Vim doesn't really have that, if you want to, if you have really messy indentation, you can do gg is equal to g, and it will indent your file. It works really nice in Java. Another thing people don't really know about Vim is that if you do control left bracket and then M, you go down your methods, or go through your methods. This is really useful. It's not, I don't think it's in every language, but it's definitely in Java with since it has the curly braces, and you can just do that to navigate through your file instead of doing 100 J's or something. Of course, I think the most efficient method for just class navigation is just curly brackets, just skip through white space. So let's actually test this class, because that's a smart thing to do. So we're just going to do edit, and we're going to do link list, or you know what? Let's just call it chain runner, because linked list is kind of like a chain. And here we go. Well, since we already have a method signature for linked list, we can just kind of reuse the same thing. And here's the tip: a lot of people don't use Vim's functionality, but I think people should at least learn about the expression register, because it's extremely useful. And so I feel like my screencast isn't working, so let me turn it up again, I guess. And here we go. There we go. We got it working again. So the expression register is, again, Control R, and then the equal sign, and then you can expand whatever you want. I use the expression register a lot just to get the file name of the class, because if you're working in Java, you know that you have extremely long file names, and I don't know who remembers them. So I just use the expression register and just get the name of the file without the file extension .java, and just do it like that. Except that didn't work because I probably misspelled it or something. And let's try it again. There we go, chain runner. So using that expression right there, it allows us to get the file name, and it's pretty simple. So you don't have to actually type in the file name. And we're just gonna do public Control N static void. You see, this just gets really simple once you learn how to do it. And of course, want to make that an array. And let's see. And then we want to make a linked list object. If I know how to spell integer correctly, I never learned. Or you know what? Let's make this a string. str's great variable name, by the way, equals new link list string. And there we go. Now let's add some strings to our linked list by doing insert, and then we can do Control X, Control Nope. Control X, Control. Nope. So let's just add whatever string, just hello, and then Control X, Control N. Let's just change it up a bit, and then world, because why not? Why not? And of course we're gonna do system, and we haven't defined that. I forgot. Print ln strs. Okay, so now we're done with that. So how would we test this? I think a lot of people would use well, if you're in Vim.8, or if you're in Vim 8 and above, you can do like for term, which will launch a new terminal, and then we can do Java C dot whatever if my thing works. And there you go. You can do that, I guess, and you can compile your whole project. But that seems like a lot of work. You know, you're opening up a new terminal, you're doing so much, and I don't really like that. I don't know who does. I really don't know who does. But I think here's another feature that people don't really know about. Vim has make. And it was originally intended to use with makefiles. So no, if you know, like if you ever use a makefile, you would just type in make on your terminal, and if you have a makefile, it will do the instructions in the makefile. But here's the fun part. Well, yeah, again, here's the fun part. Vim's make was intended to work with makefiles, but you can also make it work with other tools, as such as Java C, to compile your project. And you do it by doing set make prg is equal to Java C. Whenever you're setting make prg, you actually have to escape your spaces, and I'm gonna do the slash the G flag, because I kind of like that. Every time I like that flag, just in case. And again, that's it. That should be it. And then our file name, and %sign just stands for the file name if you don't really know. Space, and then we can do make. Now it will launch the terminal, and it will make our project. And and this is really useful because if you do, hold up, I know this can be really shitty, but vert term, and then this is I'm just gonna show you that it actually works. So I'm just gonna do rm.classes, and then delete that, and then we're gonna do make, and then I deleted it before, right? But now if we do a simple ls, you can see that the classes files were generated, and that's because make works. And again, make, it's really useful. It can be used to compile a project. But here's another fun part. The make actually goes along with the Vim's quick fix list, which is another thing most people don't know about. And it can be used to check your errors in a compiler. For example, say I for some reason forgot to write this semicolon at the end. If we do make, we're gonna get some errors, right? And we can get a lot of errors, you know, like let's just do make. We have 2 errors now. We can use the Vim's quick fix menu to get those errors. So if you run make and then you run copen, you can see the errors you got. Here, let me expand it. And as you can see here, it's telling us we have 2 errors at the end. And we can just do enter to bring us directly there. Of course, these are pretty simple errors that you can fix easily without, I hope, a compiler having to tell you, but sometimes you do make stupid mistakes. But the quick fix menu can be really useful if you have like a large amount of errors. And you can also like say I also had those errors before, and I do the quick fix menu. there are some ways to navigate the quick fix errors. You can do C first to go to the first error, C last to go to the last error, and then this is not that useful since we only really have 2 errors, but you can do C next and then C prev yes to go back to the next error. Okay, again, this is really useful if you have a lot of errors and really just want to work within Vim. And then Vim gives you all these options to to just compile your project. It's really useful. First of all, sorry for the noise in the background. I just noticed how loud it is. I'm really sorry. I can't really record somewhere else. But we have compiled using make this file. But what if you really want to run your code? Well, you can do the filter, and I'm going to explain a better way to do this later on in the video. But you can just do filters to run an external command. And you can do Java, your file name. I mean, I like, again, expression register is really nice for this because you don't really have to ever remember your file name. And then there we go. And hello world. That's pretty simple. A really stupid use of a linked list, but you know, it works. And then what if you really want to rename a whole bunch of variables? A whole bunch of variables. You can use Vim. Okay, so there's another way to populate the quick fix list, and that is by using Vim grep. Vim grep. And then here Vim grep just takes a search. So I'm just going to search insert because I know that I've used it in both classes. And I'm just going to do, so Vim grep searches for a term, and then you have to tell it what files you want to search it in. So I'm just going to search up all Java files because I only really have 2 files. But you can just do linked list.java and then chain.runner.java. And now if we open our quick fix menu again, we can see that it has successfully it has all the locations where insert was used. And now if I know that some people really like the function of an IDE where you can just rename a variable. You can do that in Vim too using quick fix menu and doing cdo. Cdo is just for it just tells Vim for every change or for every item in the quick fix list you want to do the specific change. In order for us to do this, we need to actually set hidden. If you don't know what this is, I'm going to explain it later on in the video. So now we can just do cdo and then whatever command we want to do on every item in the quick fix menu. And I think it's pretty simple. We want to replace insert with, I don't know, add. And there we go. Just global C. I like doing GC just to check that we're actually going to replace what we want to replace. So we're going to change this insert with add, and this insert with add, and then this insert with add, and there you go. This is how you can rapidly change a variable name. And the last thing I want to show you guys with just traditional Vim is how to navigate files without really using CTags or some other tool. So here's a directory. This was for a school project I had to do. I didn't really like it, but if we just do Predator, well, this is one of our classes I had to do. As you can see here, we're extending another class, but I don't really know where that is. If we do X and then here, we know there's so many files. I don't really want to check through all these files. So what we can do here is work with GF. So right now if we do GF, which searches for the name of the searches for the file with the name under a cursor throughout our directory. And it doesn't really work right now because we haven't specified our path. And GF is really useful if you want to navigate without CTags. So here, if we do set path, well, if we do set path plus equal our current directory, and then everything below it. I know this is a terrible thing to do, but just stick with me. If you set our set path, you can now navigate some things. But that still doesn't really give you the option to go through files, especially in Java. But here's the next thing you can do to make this work alongside path. So you can do set suffixes, and I misspelled suffixes. You can do set suffixes add, and then we're gonna do .java. And now with this, we can do GF, and it brings us to our critter class. And then we can do, if we do set hidden, of course, because honestly, I like set hidden. And then we do Control Shift and then caret. We can go back to our old class, or you can do Control O. Control O. And then, so we have a bug runner, I think. Here we go. And this is really useful because if you have like a lot of classes, you can do GF and just go through that just go to that file directly with GF. You can also do this with find, but I like GF since whenever you have to like declare the name of the Java of the class when you're working with Java. And again, GF just goes to that class. This just works by setting suffix add and set path, and you can do more with it if you really want to. And that's the last thing I really want to show you with traditional Vim. So if you're working with Vim in Java, I would really recommend some tools. The first two I would really recommend is GNU Make. I showed you how to use it within Vim, but you can within Vim to change make PRG and change make. But again, you can just do in Vim, you can just do make, and if it defaults to your make file, it will run your make file. And then here's the make file I have for some of my some of my classes. It's kind of a template I use. There are obviously better solutions, such as specific build tools that were made specifically with use for Java, and it works for me. But I feel like there's some things I'm doing wrong, and I feel like there's some things I can improve. So if anyone wants to actually correct me, you can comment below. I also in the description added a link to where I got the inspiration from. But yeah, it works. The next tool I would really recommend for Java development using Vim is knowing how to use the Java debugger that is included in the Java development kit. So you might have seen me use the G flag with the Java C or Java compiler, and the reason for that is because it's needed to debug. So if we look at the Java C man page, you can see that G flags is used to generate all sort of information used by the debugger. So just use it wherever your the main function for your project is. Run it, and then run the JDB by using JDB, and then the name of your main class. And then what you do is just create a stop point. So you do stop at chain runner, and then colon, and this just represents the line number. So I'm just going to do it up to line number 6. So you do 6, and then that you have to declare a breakpoint. Now you do run, and then you can do locals to like look at what your variables are. You can do like print strs, print, and then you can do like a list, and then print strs. There we go. Print strs that way, and it'll print your variables this way. There's so many things you can do, like step in. Like it's just a debugger. How do you expect an IDE just in the terminal, which I really like. And I feel like a lot of people don't know about this. At least I didn't. and it's really useful to learn how to at least debug in the terminal using this. If you really want to learn how to use it more in depth, I put a link in the description, so if you want to look at that, it'll be great. The last tool I would recommend is using CTags. I feel like if you really want to like go through your code efficiently, you need to use some sort of tool to do that. I use CTags. Personally, I use universal CTags, and the cool thing about universal CTags is that you can define some settings. I know you can do this in other versions of CTags. So if you look at my config and then tags, or v.default, and I've set the defaults to be recursion, to exclude our git directory, and if you ever use VS Code, whatever VS Code, the directory that VS Code makes. I also excluded node modules because why would I ever use I don't know. And then finally, tag relative. These are just some basic settings I like to use. And once you do that, you can either run on your terminal CTags, and then whatever directory you want to generate the tags for. I do it in my current directory. Do that, and then you can see that if we do an ls, we have a new tags file because that's what CTags generates. And then if we go to look at our tag files, it just has all the information of where certain really important signatures or fields are located. And if we go to our buffer that has our file or class, we can do, and let me I feel like, yep, let me just start up screen tags, screen keys again, and then if you do control left bracket, you can see where that is generated. Of course, this is ideally with set hidden, and then you can just navigate this way. So for example, you want to know where node is defined, you can do control left bracket, and it brings you to the location of node. What about like this data? It goes to that data. You can also do like G left bracket, which lets you choose where to go instead of like automatically jumping there. For example, if I want to go to 2, and that's where it's first used. Along with GF and CTags, this is an optimal way to like just go through your code. Now that we have looked at ways we can use Vim without any configuration to write Java code, and we have looked at some tools we can use alongside Vim to write with Java, I think it's time to actually look at our vimrc. Our vimrc is where most of our configuration is going to happen. And as you can see by my notes right here, I have 5 lines that I really like to use on my vimrc. I'm going to try explain them to you. So let's just go to Vim. Again, this is a new version of Vim. I haven't really set any configurations except basically set hidden, because I'm going to explain what this does if you don't know what it's about. So first, if you really want to edit your vimrc from anywhere, you can just use this environmental variable that Vim gives. You can just do my vimrc, and you're going to be put into your vimrc. It has to be created, I think, but as long as you have created, you can just use that and it'll go to your vimrc like a snap. So I'm just going to copy these lines, but there we go. And then I'm probably gonna have to set pace. There we go. And these are the 5 lines that I always have to have whenever I'm writing basically Java code. File type plugin indent on turns on the indent file in from the Vim runtime directory wherever your system Vim files are located, and it sets your file type on. So if you ever want to recognize, if you ever want Vim to recognize a specific file that it knows automatically, set file type on and it'll allow you to do that. Syntax on is for syntax highlighting. syntax on turns out the highlight groups for depending on what file type it is, and using this we can get syntax highlighting. You can. I think some people have no syntax highlighting, but personally, I use it. I find it really useful. Set hidden. So if you're ever writing a file and you haven't saved the changes and you try to edit another file with like edit chain runner in this case, if you do this without having saved your buffer and don't have set hidden on, you're not going to be able to edit that file because Vim's going to give you an error you haven't saved. So set hidden allows you to work with multiple unsaved buffers, which I think that if you're editing Java code, you're going to have to look at so many files, and set hidden, it's probably one of your must to do, like, options set on. Set backspace and then end of line start just fixes a lot of inconsistencies I found with Vim's backspace, or like how the default it's set on. And then the last one is set omni function. This allows you, so if you don't know, sometimes when you do Control X, Control O, you get this error, omni function is not set up. And if you write this code, it allows you to if right before I've talked about how you can do Control X, Control N to complete a word or phrase that has been used in your file before. Control X, Control O is omni function, and that starts like completion, in this case for syntax. And I'm going to show you what this does once I reload the file. So now that we have reloaded the file, wait, I should show you a example of no vimrc, because I think that's no rc, and then we want to go chain runner.java. If you don't know what this does, the U flag allows you to choose a specific file you want to source as your vimrc. So again, doing this, you can see there's no syntax highlighting. If we go to like linked list, linklist.java, you can see that oh, my bad. Also, I just want to mention that if you do no RC, it's actually going to set up the defaults for VI. Like so whenever you do no RC, Vim is going to be in compatible mode with VI. And if you create your vimrc in your home directory, it's going to automatically set no compatible mode. It's honestly, all you need to know is that if you set up your vimrc, it's going to have some defaults in ORC setups with compatible mode with VI. But anyway, my point is that you're not going to have any syntax highlighting, and you're not really going to have a lot of options, as you can see here. But now that we set up our vimrc with those options, if we do the same thing, you're going to get some syntax highlighting. And it's going to be nice. Like, and now if we do edit linked list.java, you're going to get more syntax highlighting. And you can see here how useful it is. And then I think the part a lot of people have this completion, and again, I want to introduce omni function. So if you do Control X, Control O now, you're going to get some syntax auto completion. Again, you can do Control N, Control. I'm going to turn. Wait, hold up. I'm going to turn on my screen keys, and so you can Control X, Control O, and then you can go Control N to search something specifically. And again, this is just simple Java syntax like while or instance of, but it's really useful. Those are the most basic things I would suggest. And then I'm going to suggest more things. Well, these are just personal because, again, a vimrc is just a person's configuration, and you shouldn't really copy the vimrc I'm showing. But it's good to have examples. The next one is set suffixes add. is equal to .java, because again, I'm telling you that if you want use GF like the way I showed you before, you need to do suffix add .java. The next thing is, you might have seen me in this video repeatedly hit JK. That's because I had in my configuration JK set as another way to escape Vim, and honestly I can't live without it, but you do you. So I just, if you don't know how to map a leader, you just do nor nmap, or just nmap, and then that stands for non-recursive mapping, and then you just do your whatever you want to rebind it and what you want it to equal to. In this case, I just want to do escape. And also, for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna just do I'm gonna do a map. I'm gonna map my leader key. It's equal to, and this is how you map your leader key if you don't know. I expect people know this, but just in case you don't know this. And then I'm gonna make this binding to leader s, and this is gonna be source my vimrc cr, because just for the purpose of the video, I want to source continually my my vimrc without having a lot of problems, and this just allows me to do that easily. My vimrc, and I can't spell my vimrc. And then the next thing I would like to add is, I think a lot of people have noticed this, but we don't really have a status bar. And the most simple way to set this is set last status, last status equals 2. So last status, or your menu or your status bar, is automatically set when you have more than one window. So if you create a new window right here, you can see that our status bar right here is created. To have Vim automatically set your status bar, you just do set last status equals 2 in your vimrc, and every time you reload or like start a new buffer, you're always gonna have a status bar. And then next thing is show CMD. I think this is not part of the Vim default, but show CMD just basically, it should set, like, whenever you're writing a normal command, it should help you see what command you're writing. It's just something I find helpful. Like you see here, like cgn, like dd, it shows you what command you're writing, and I think that's pretty helpful. The next thing I like to do is set relative number. It's set rnu and nu. And if we source it again, we have relative numbers. This is just preference again, but I really like it. I'm not going to continue that much with this because this is just preference, but I do want to get on where, like, you can actually use your vimrc to help you. So when I was starting Vim, I really wanted a way to have this workflow where I can press a button and have my code compile. I think a lot of people miss. So I found this like a long time ago. I found this Stack Overflow post that kind of described what I wanted to do. Here, this person uses a auto command to make some keybinds, or set his make PRG automatically depending on if the file type he is in or the buffer he's in is file type Java. And when I saw this, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. So I copied it. And this is a pretty bad idea. Don't really copy what you see on the internet, because if you don't know what it is, it might not make sense. Just for this example, I am gonna copy it, but I'm gonna tell you what it does, because I want you guys to know what exactly is happening. And if you're just wondering what is paste, it's just a way to add to make sure that whatever I'm pasting is gonna be pasted the way I want it. I'm gonna explain what this does. So first you have an auto command, and the reason why he makes it an auto command is because you can set make RPG to whatever you want, and the easiest way to set make RPG to something like that to whatever you want depending on file type is making an auto command. The next thing is he set a error format. Oh, sorry, I'm assuming he set an error format. And if you look at help error format Java C, this I think he took it automatically. Sorry, let me turn on my screen. He took the error format directly off this because you can see that it's the bottom one. So an error format is, as I showed you, when you have quick fix like things in your quick fix list. So again, if you want to do Vim just set, that's probably going to be the easiest one, G, and then like here, let's just do it our current buffer, and then we do C open, right? You can see that our error, like our the items in the quick fix menu quick fix list are appear like this. And I'm pretty sure that some people don't really like this way. Like some people really want to customize it. And if you do, you set the option set error format, or EFM for short. You can customize the way these items appear in your quick fix list. And that's basically what he did. And this is the recommended Java error format. If you really want to read about it, I suggest you looking up what I did, because it's pretty long, and it just kind of like it deals with Vim. Like some of these symbols are exclusive for Vim, but I'm just gonna like run it. So basically, whenever you run a sorry for that. So whenever you run something like Java, or let me just edit and make a quick error. So whenever you do this, right, you do Java C, you see that there's a tiny caret symbol. So, and let's go back, of course. So when we write make, right, and then you see open, this just like the error format we introduced there makes it so whenever we see the caret sign, it's gonna really just get rid of that and just format it in this nice way. So without that, I'm too used to my plugins, I'm sorry. So if we do that and without our error format, indeed we see open, it gives us like this really expansive quick fix error that I really don't like. Like it tells us this whole thing, which before if we had our error format, it wouldn't. And that's just a simple way to format the quick fix errors. So he made these bindings, F9 and F10 and F11. He probably wanted, like the creator of the post wanted to make keybinds that resemble an IDE. Well, first of all, one of the reasons why you shouldn't really copy code from the internet or myself is because some people might not know what they're doing, and so map is fine, but if you really want to make it safe, you should do it the way I did it, and specify that this is not like a non-recursive mapping. And you should like honestly cater your keybinds to yourself. Like these are pretty specific, and if you know how to use the quick fix list, you don't really need to know how to. I believe you don't really need these keybinds, but you do you. I think these are the three more important bindings. However, there's one thing I do want to mention, and that's the fact that when I started using Vim and I saw this configuration, and I saw this, I was like, I could really use, like at the time I was working with Python and Java, and I wanted a way to use pylint to format my code, which using make. So I thought it was a good idea to wanted to basically use the same keybinds for different for specific file types, and I wanted to change what they meant. So for example, here I was basically doing Python, auto command file type Python set make RPG, and then so something like Python, something like that, something really stupid. And I was basically using file types and auto commands in my vimrc to do this. First of all, I would really recommend against this, just having random auto commands in your vimrc. If you really want to do that, I would recommend a auto group, and then whatever you want to call your, I'm just going to call this Java, and then going to end and then ending the auto group. Because whenever you run your vimrc or whenever you source your vimrc, and if you have so many auto commands, they're just going to stack up and you're just going to reuse them. So a good way to make sure your vimrc runs properly is to put your auto commands in a auto group and do auto command auto cmd exclamation mark, which kind of resets all your auto commands before this. And that's just a good way to make sure that your vimrc runs properly and fast if you really want to use auto command file type. But honestly, there's a better way to do this. This person, I think, wanted to make a quick solution, or maybe he didn't, but because he kind of specified you should add a share of vimrc. But if you are planning to use make PRG and error format, I would really recommend you searching for how to use the way that Vim is structured to your advantage. For example, let's take a look how Vim is Vim defaults and the Vim files in our system are formatted. So if you're on Arch Linux, you can go to user share Vim 8.2, and as you can see that we have a lot of directories: autoload, colors, compiler, ft plugin, and spell. And if we go to compiler, you can see that there's a lot of files here that end in .vim. These are files that Vim sources. Well, not specific compiler, because you have to set that up. But for example, if you're going to syntax, these are the files that when you have file type plugin indent on, that Vim sources when you run it. So if you go to that Vim, here is where you actually get your syntax. And this is really useful to learn, to know how to use or to look at, because as you can see here, we're setting specific auto commands just for a file. But Vim has an option to automatically do that, or to automatically adjust some settings for specific file types. And so in this video, I also want to cover compiler and after ft plugin. So if we go to our .vim or our home directory .vim directory, and here you go. Here, don't take a look at that, but basically you're gonna have if you create your .vim directory in your home directory, you're gonna have something like this, and mimicking the file structure of this of the standard Vim system, or how the system Vim is set up, we can actually use this to our advantage. So the first thing you might want to do is, if you're actually planning to use make with Java, is create a compiler directory. You can just write compiler and then oopsie compiler, and then just make a file. I'm gonna name this Java G because Java G.vim, because I use the G flag so much that I'm just gonna name my compiler file after it. So let's take a look at the Java C file, which is a standard compile. So it's a standard file in Vim 8.2. So honestly, the only thing you really have to set is compiler set. I think it's compiler set. Let me take a look at it. It's compiler set. It's just this line. It's just this line. And I realized that I'm not using my standard Vim. I was using my standard Vim configuration. I apologize for that. So, but the only line you really have to set is compiler set make RPG Java C. And if you wanna, and I suggest that you actually look at what this does, because or the way this file is structured, because it just helps to make sure your compiler works as it is. I think I'm not explaining this properly, but so I'm just going to give you a summary again. Whenever you make a file in the compiler directory, in your .vim directory, and then you do compiler lowercase, you can see that Vim has some compiler options you can use already. And basically your files in the compiler directory tell Vim how you want to set your make RPG and error format. In this case, if we do my vimrc and then yank this and then go back, and then you do compiler set error format, every time you do compiler Java or Java C, Java G, my bad, Vim's gonna source this file, and it's gonna tell Vim that you want your make RPG to set to Java C. Well, we actually want to set it to Java C .g current file. That's how I like it. And it's gonna automatically source this file. So now that we have looked at ways we can use the compiler directory to set a specific make PRG and error format for our file type and how to handle make, I think it's time to actually look out how to put specific file type, or for example Java, specific Java settings we want for So now that we have looked at ways we can use the compiler directory to set a specific make PRG and error format for our file type and how to handle make, I think it's time to actually look out how to put specific file type, or for example Java, specific Java settings we want for our buffers when writing Java code. And so continuing on from the last point, a person might think that this might be a smart idea to write a auto command for Java and set your compiler in your vimrc. However, this is a really bad idea. It's not a bad idea, but there's better ways you can do this. So I'm just gonna comment this out because I'm telling you it's not a good idea to do this. And I'm going to show you where you can actually write specific or where you should write specific file type settings in home directory. and I'm gonna make a new directory, and I'm gonna call this after. And then once I'm in after, I'm gonna make another directory, and after just stands for when. Okay, so when Vim is sourcing your Vim directory or .vim directory, it's gonna look at that after sources everything else. Once you're in your FT plugin directory, you can simply create so the way you actually make a file to have the specific file type settings is just name your file, the name of the file type you're going to use, in this case .java, and then end it with .vim. And here we can actually set our compiler settings. And every time that we open a buffer that is .java, or any Java files basically, we are actually going to source this file, because that's the way that Vim sources this file, because we have a file type plugin in that .don. So just doing a compiler Java G will make our compiler whenever we're using Java files or writing Java files, Java C G. And then the next thing I like to do is just map my leader 8 to Control W, enter, Control or just colon W, enter, and then run make, and then CR again, and then finally I like doing C window. You might be asking what C window is, and basically it's C open. So whenever you run make, you can run C open, and C open will display the items in the quick fix list. However, C open opens either way, no matter if you have no errors or anything else. What I'm trying to say is that C open, it's sometimes going to give you blank information, and sometimes you don't really need it. So what I like to do is C window, and C window only opens the change fix window in case there's any errors, and since there's no errors, it's not going to be open. The next thing I like to do is map leader 9 to actually running my code. So if you know how to use an IDE, right, there's going to be a run function, and this is pretty similar. There's obviously some limitations, but it kind of works for me. So I use the filter command, and I'm sorry if I didn't explain this before, but the filter is just exclamation mark, and you can run an external command on this. I use it to write first do clear, and then the semicolon in Linux is just to indicate that you're running another command. And I like to do, here's what I like to do, control R, the expression register, and then expand, and then the current file. This is important. Current file, and then we're just gonna get up to the root. It's the same thing I showed you guys before, and then I'm gonna pipe it. Well, you have to actually escape the pipe, because you have to escape the pipe just to make sure it works. And we're gonna pipe this into xargs, and xargs is basically a program that that's useful for piping to actually redirect your arguments into a command, and we're gonna redirect it to Java. It's gonna be OM enter, except I forgot probably to write a C enter here. There we go. So what this is going to do is going to take the name of our file, and it's going to run it in the JVM. And the reason I like to again take the .java at the end is just to make it neater. And now we're almost done. I just forgot to do one thing. Here you have to actually echo it. Also, another thing to do that's smart is we only want to apply this to like the current buffer, in case we have like we're working multiple file types, and we don't want to use this in other file types, such as if we're working with Python and Java. Sometimes you don't want to you definitely don't want to pipe the name of the file into Java, the Java JVM. So let's take a look at our setup with the files we made. So we do vim.chain runner, and we do (8). It's going to run our code. C window is not going to open because we don't have any errors. Of course, if we took off the semicolon at the end, we save it, and then we do (8). C window is going to open because there's an error. Stupid error, but there's an error. And then run it again. We have compile our program in the back. And then we do (9). It's going to run our program. Easy as that. And that's the way I have basically my vimrc set up. There's more things that I like to set up, and I'm going to show you quickly because I do want to get into NeoVim next. So let's take a look at what other vimrc things I have in my vimrc. The first thing I like to talk about is split below and split right. So whenever you make like a new split, it goes to the left, or usually goes to left whenever you're whenever you make a new split. And if you do SB, it's gonna open to the up. But using these two commands, I can I don't know why I'm deleting the buffer, but using these two commands, I can make sure the splits go the way I like it. The next thing is set lazy redraw, and this just allows Vim to not redraw the screen. So whenever you go down the screen, or whenever you're going up the screen, Vim is redrawing that. But if you don't really wanna, if you want to save more space when you're doing macros, I really recommend this. So Vim just automatically turns redrawing the screen off temporarily, and it makes your macros faster. Undo and undo DDR, I'm going to talk about later. The next thing I want to talk about is leader C, or this command I map to. So whenever you're working with the compiler, or Java G compiler we made, you really need to make sure that you are in the directory that your main file is, main Java file is. If you're not in the same directory, the compiler might act weirdly, or might not compile your code. And to do that, I just have this simple keybind that turns the Vim's current directory to the directory of the file we're working with. Here's just something else. I just like doing Control a lot, and making new lines even while I'm in insert mode or normal mode. These 4 commands right here, these 4 commands, let me turn off my string keys off, allow me to work with buffers and resize them whenever I need them. And then right here, this just allows me to quickly go to whatever split I want, using Vim keys instead of doing Control W, Control H. Finally, I told you guys to not really do this, and I think I explained why you shouldn't do this. I hope you listen. I'm gonna paste this vimrc in the description as well if you guys want to follow along. And finally, I want to talk about grep PRG. I'm going to talk about this really quickly because I did talk about Vim grep. So Vim grep uses Vim's internal grep. It's a different kind of grep compared to GNU grep. And the good thing about Vim grep is that it uses Vim regular expressions the way you use them in other parts of Vim. So if you're really good at Vim grep, like Vim's regular expression, you might want to consider using Vim grep. However, there's a downside. It's kind of slow. So if you want to use an external tool, I use ripgrep, you can download it, like just search up grep GitHub, and you can probably find it there. If you're an Arch, you can just like literally do Arch or sudo pacman. I can't spell, I'm sorry. That is rip grep, and that should install your rip grep for you. I already have installed, but yeah. Set grep prg, you're just gonna set the tool grep uses whenever you use grep, and the Vim grep flag just allows make sure that whatever you're searching with rip grep, that it can be interpreted by Vim grep or Vim itself. Grep format is just a way to format the output. I think you can take the hint from error format in compiler. And again, I use rip grep because it's faster. So you would just, instead of like doing Vim grep, like the search you want to do like add or something, and then you just do like Vim or grep, and then whatever term you want to do. I think it's more similar because it's more simpler because I use rip grep a lot. And that's it. That's basically the settings I have in my vimrc whenever I'm working with Java. Again, you shouldn't really copy, but you can take suggestions off this. And now let's move on to NeoVim. So when I started using Vim, I was really just into using Vim at all without really using any plugins. And that was the case until I really found out about NeoVim. It wasn't that Vim was any bad or it was worse than NeoVim, but NeoVim specifically had one thing that I liked. You see, whenever I go to my home directory, I do LA, you would see that there's multiple hidden files or hidden directories, and I really dislike that because I really like my home directory to be empty or cleared. One of the things that NeoVim does that I really like was that it uses xdg config, which is just a configuration that tells developers to put your configuration files in this specific directory. I have it set to the default, so as you can see here, and these are my dot files. And this is how I really started using NeoVim. And from NeoVim, I started using plugins. Again, plugins are just basically scripts written in a Vim script or Python or something, another language, that are used to enhance Vim functionality. There are some plugins that really just make things way simpler. And here's what I'm going to talk about. So if you don't know how to install NeoVim, that's how you do it in Arch Linux. But I really recommend also installing Node.js, because some of the plugins I am going to talk about require Node.js. And here's my and also I think it's important to note that NeoVim uses init.vim instead of your vimrc, and it's located wherever your .config NeoVim location is, and that depends on your where your xdg config home is located. And this is basically what I have so far. It's nothing, it's not really any it's just basically the same thing, but for init.vim. If you're wondering why I don't have like file type plugin indent on, the reason for this is that I don't need it, because basically NeoVim has some defaults on, and by default file type plugin indent is on it, and also it's never on compatible mode or VI. There's also some things you might want to read here, and it's worth reading. As I said, when I got into NeoVim, I actually started looking at plugins that would help me edit Java code faster and in ways that I could never have done using Vim script and Vim alone. So to install plugins, I use a plugin manager called Vim. A plugin manager called Vim Plug. It's probably the most famous plugin manager out there. And what Vim Plug allows me to do is it allows me to keep all my plugins in one place and manage them in my VimRC. It allows me to update them quickly, and also allows me to lazy load plugins based on file type. And that's basically all the requirements I need. If you're not comfortable using like a plugin manager, if you're in Vim 8.0 and above, I think there's an included plugin manager with Vim that works as well. You just have to look at the directories, and as if you can get it working, it works. So if you're NeoVim, or by the way, all the plugins I'm gonna suggest are all work in NeoVim/Vim. For this reason, I'm just gonna refer NeoVim to Vim, because honestly, at this point, they're not that different. So if you're a NeoVim, or depending on what version of Vim you are, Vim or NeoVim, you're gonna type this into your command line, and so you can download Vim Plug. Once you do that, the most important thing to start Vim Plug is this call method. You're calling the begin method in the plug file script, and then all you have to do is end it, and all your plugins go in between these two lines. By the way, this quotation marks, or this file path, is where your plugins are going to be installed. And once you have properly installed everything, and you wrote these lines, you can start installing plugins. So the first plugin I'm gonna recommend is Conquer Completion. It allows me to synchronize with a language server. And it's a language server. It's really useful. It's honestly one of the best things that had happened that allows us Vim users to still use Vim and still get the benefits in IDE. It's one of the reasons why I think that it's viable to work with Vim and not have to use an IDE. If you're not familiar with this, let's look at Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code uses the language support protocol. In fact, Microsoft was the one who came up with the idea. So if we go to the Java expansion pack, and then you go to language support or Java, you see how slow it is? I don't like it. So it provides Java language support via the Eclipse language server. And if we look at this is the language server that it provides code completion, some snippets, I believe, and some code formatting. And we're going to use this same server that VS Code uses in Vim. And the way we're going to do this is by using Conquer Completion. So what you want to do is just use this line right here. And once you have this line, you can start installing a plugin. So what you want to do is, once you fully install Vim Plug, there's going to be some commands you can use in the command line mode. So in Vim's command line mode. So here you want to run Vim plug install if we source this, which I don't think we have. There we go. Plug install. So I already installed this, but if you did it the first time, it's gonna take maybe like 3 seconds. And with this, this is the first part for Conquer Completion. The second part of Conquer Completion is you wanna look at this example code of VimRC they gave and see what they have this example of MRC is just to make everything work with Conquer completion. You can remap a lot of things yourself, and I'm gonna tell you pretty much what's happening here. So I like to keep stuff separately because I pretty much copy and paste this. So I source it using runtime, and we look at this is basically this whole text, and I'm gonna try to go through it so people can know what's happening. So I think the most important part is basically this. It allows Conquer completion to remap tab to trigger completion, as it says here. The other thing that's important is that it creates a, you can rename variables with Control K. Well, I don't think it's Control K automatically, but I renamed it with, yeah, it was leader RN, but I changed it to Control K. You can also format your code using the language server, if your language server supports it. If you copy this configuration file and then have plugin, and then you put this line, you can start using Conquer completion without any language support. So for example, I can do set, and you're gonna see that you get some completion for the file. It's kind of like Vim's insert completion, but you use tab instead of Control and Control P. You can also change the tab to whatever you want. But that's enough of just Conquer completion. You actually want to use a language server. And again, we are going to use, so we want to work with Java, right? So there's an extension. So unfortunately, you actually have to install extensions to use Conquer completion. And the extension we're going to use is COC Java, Conquer completion Java. And you install it by using COC install COC Java. And once you've done that, you can, if you start editing a Java file, you're gonna get some completion. And the way it does this is by using the same language server as VS Code Java. Now let's take an example. Let's go to our chain runner class, and as you can see here at the bottom, it says language server is starting at our current directory, and this is my Conquer completion. So now if we do system, it's gonna try to complete that. Hitting tab or shift tab, you can go through the entries. This is exactly how it works in VS Code. In addition to that, yeah, you can there's some, if you do CSC command, you can look at commands that the language server COC Java comes with. If you have like some Maven build, you can actually make it with, like, you can use COC Java to make it. More things you can do. That's just completion using, you know, the language server I talked about. But if you want to use snippets, like if you're not familiar with snippets too, it's basically you write like some text, and then you press a keyboard shortcut, and it expands the text into like this code block, and it's really useful. To show you what it is, we have to install another extension for COC, for Conquer completion. This is called COC snippets. You also have to install another plugin on top of that. If we go back to our init.vim, and we go to, we load the snippets. So COC snippets loads the snippets from a database. Sometimes the language server you're using has these snippets, but if it doesn't, there's a great like database you can use called Vim snippets, and we're gonna install it. So all you have to do, like if you're not sure, if like the README for a certain plugin doesn't say how to install it, with Vim plug, all you have to do is copy the URL from the user and then the name of the repo, and all you have to do is do plug, and you can do Honza and Vim snippets with a S. After every time you want to install a plugin, you have to do plug install. So I'm going to source this to update it, and then there we go. Again, I've already installed these plugins, so it might take a bit for you, but it should be fine. Now if we go back to chain runner and we type it correctly, and now we do print ln, you can see that there's an S for snippet. It doesn't come that way, but I'm going to show you how to get that, like the S. So now that I've set it up, so if I have to Control J, it expands snippet. This is really useful because if we do Vim, let's see, random.java, I can do COC and then Control J, and it expands to the name of the class and a constructor. And let me do that again because I want to show you something. So if I press Control J again, it goes to, in case there's like no arguments or fields that I want to put it to the constructor, I can just go to the constructor body, and then I can go out of the constructor and keep on typing. Snippets are just really useful for this. And again, println, boom, expands to system.out.println. And again, here's another benefit of a language server. A language server allows you to analyze your code. So in case there's an error or there's something wrong about it, the language server is going to tell you, or using language server by Conquer completion, it's going to tell you if there's an error, and it's going to like highlight it red. You don't need NeoVim for this, but it's thanks to NeoVim's developers that are focused on making asynchronous, making NeoVim asynchronous. It's kind of a bit better than using just Vim. The next thing you can do, or the next thing I recommend to do, is sometimes if we go back to Conquer completion, there's some supported, like, and when you're using an IDE or a text editor like VS Code with Java expansion pack, you might like see some suggestions that you might want to apply. Like sometimes it says, do you mean this, or do you want to put the getters and setters or the toString method for each class? And you want to do that, right? And an easy way to do that is if we go to our init.vim, and then you don't have to go to your init.vim, but I just like doing it. And we go to install, there's another extension that helps you that I really would recommend. It's called coc.list. And then once you do coc list, you can see that it just gives you a bunch of things that deal with Conquer completion. And then if you go actions, you can see that there's a convert to snippet. But sometimes if we go to like our link list.java class we made, and we do coc list, and then actions again. It might give you some actions you can do with our code here. For example, if change modifiers to final when possible, sometimes you like these are the suggestions that IDE or a text editor like VS Code gives you, and all you have to do is install CLC list actions, and then generate toString or generate getters and headers. I don't know why you would do that for a linked list, honestly, but yeah. And here you see here it generates comments and the getters and headers. One more thing about but there's an easy way to there's one extension I would recommend when doing it, and it's called CLC I think CLC install actions. And once you do that, you can do control, or I have mapped this to control A, and it just directly brings me to the actions using a plugin. And let's take a look at that. Here I have this it's right here, control A. So it just calls CLC actions using CLC lists. So I don't actually think you need CLC actions, but I recommend installing it just in case. And this is a way you can make custom keybinds for keyboard shortcuts for Conquer completion. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to configure Conquer, like how do you configure Conquer completions? Because like I said before, we do private. I get this like fancy S that tells me that's a snip that represents it's a snippet, or like A. And the way you do this in other configurations is you want to go to your .config, that's NeoVim or whatever your configuration for Vim is, and whenever you use Conquer completion, you're gonna use there's gonna be a file that you can edit called Conquer completion settings, and these are the labels. These are the labels for that, for what I have. So when it's a string, or when it's a snippet, right, it gives us the S. And these are just ways I like it. This is just extra, and I just wanted to mention in case someone wanted to know. The important part is probably that using Conquer completion settings, you can there's some supported settings that the language server might have. For example, sometimes you're not in a project, you might get an error called incomplete class path, and here using Conquer completion settings, you can just ignore it, choose to ignore it. There's other settings, like whenever you generate code, it generates comments, and I like true. And if you want to see more settings here, it's your language server, and you can see the supported settings, and you just put the settings here. I'm sorry, I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but that's pretty much Conquer completion using snippets, language server, and more. The next plugin is going to deal with debugging, and it's called Vim Inspector. I would really recommend reading the README for this, because I've recently just got it working, and I've been testing it out, and it works for me, but I don't know everything about it. Like, I can't explain everything in depth about it, so I would really recommend reading the README, but I'm going to show you how I use it. So again, so you want to read the README, and you want to follow the installation guide, install some gadgets. I know I'm mentioning a lot, but I just recommend reading the README so you understand what I'm saying, because I'm still not fully 100% sure how it works, but I know it works. So if you install it using Vim plug, it works. And then, but this is not the only thing I'm gonna use it with. So along this, I use another Conquer completion extension. So once you again hit the plug install and install the Vim Inspector. And sorry if I didn't mention this, but Vim Inspector is used for debugging, using like using, I think, VS Code like keybinds, and as you can see this key screenshot, you can debug using it. So here, along with this plugin, I use another file, Conquer Completion extension. This is called Conquer Completion Java Debug. And once you install it, it does wonders. You might want to read the README, and I'm gonna pull it up just in case. Java Debug. And again, you really want to read the README because I recently just got it working. So once it's supposed to work with Vim Spectre, and it uses like remote sections from a Java. It's pretty much like the Java debugger, but it way better because you don't really have to like do a lot. And in case, I just want to mention this, but in case you want to you have like a lot of extensions you want to download and you want to let other people you want to download, you can do this format at the end, and this is the format to let Conquer Completion know which extensions you always want to download. So in case you want to move your like init.vim or to somewhere else and you want to copy it to another machine, you can just use this it's like code block here or array to let Conquer Completion know which extensions it to download every time. I'm just going to put it at the top. Once you have installed those plugins and extensions, to make everything work, I'm going to just show you live. You want to create a .vimspector.json. So let's just right there. And then inside that vimspector.json, you want to copy those lines. It's basically just telling these tools what port we're going to attach the debugger to. And now that we have done that, let's just go to our chain runner, and I want to show you guys what you can do. So here, right? So first thing, again, you still want to do the -g flag because it's pretty important, because you want to have you want to compile your code and you want to have a debugger running. So you want to do vnew and then term, and this creates a terminal in NeoVim. And then again, java.g chain runner, and then you're good. And that's the first thing you have to do. And also, when you're using NeoVim's terminal, you can exit by Control/N. That's how you exit. Once you have compiled your code, you can actually start using the tools properly. So the first thing you want to look at is that Vim Spectre has these mappings that are really useful, that you can use to create breakpoints and continue and start, and what you would typically expect from a debugger, like I showed you before. So I have put these specific file changes I have in my java.vim in my ft plugin directory, like I showed you before. And using these bindings, I am going to make breakpoints. So the first breakpoint I have, for some reason, I make the breakpoint to leader 00. I thought it was like out or something. So I binded them to leader 00. And once you do that, you can see like this red arrow. And this is how you make breakpoints in Vim Spectre. Once you have done that, you could go back to your terminal, and following this read you want to actually run this command. What it does is just basically start the JVM at this specific port. This specific port correlates to the port we assigned it to in the vimspector.json. So this is again just following the README, except you want to replace your class name with the class you want to debug. So you run this, and it should start say listening for port. Basically, it's gonna listen for a debugger at this port, and this is where we're gonna start Vimspector. And to start Vimspector, if you read the README, you can start it with Java like COC command Java Vimspector start. And now we are at one breakpoint. And if we do COC, and we can finally use Vimspector and COC like you would use for a debugger. An example of this is like using I think it's Vimspector evaluate, and then we have STRs. It's gonna evaluate here. It's gonna print out the result, except that right now we've initialized it and it's at this breakpoint. I'm so sorry for the noise. But if we want to continue, we want to use leaders 06, or that's what I mapped it to. You can map it to whatever you want. I'm gonna just set mouse equals to A because it's pretty annoying. So again, you want to do leader 06, and it's gonna go into the next breakpoint. And you can watch and do some things you expect from a debugger. And again, if we like do the same thing, it's going to evaluate differently because we're at this breakpoint now. And that's how you can debug. You can step into, like you can do step, stepped into, it's leader 06, leader 07, except you have to make it. And then we go, you can see that it's starting to go to the println. And with this setup, you can have a lot of things happening. And this, it just creates, it's important to note that it creates 5 windows here, but it's separate from your original workflow, workspace. So you can go back to your original workspace, which is a different tab by GT, and you have your original workspace. And then you can just go on, continue debugging, and well, we have to get out of it first because there we go. And then here we can see that the debugging ended once we actually ran through our whole program. And that's how we debug using COC, Java debug, and Vimspector. It kind of works, and it does work for me currently. But I'm sure that some people are gonna be mad about it because it's kind of complicated to set up, and I had some trouble setting this up until I realized how it worked. And the thing is, if you're running Vim, it creates like a bar you can press, which is really nice. But in NeoVim, unfortunately, you don't have that, so you do have to create the plugins, like the keybinds I showed you. And that's, I think, it. Alright, this is part 4, I guess. So I'm going to talk about workflows, or like my specific workflow, and some other plugins I like to use. So I'm going to delete this because I have another thing I want to show you guys. So here's some plugins I would recommend. You know, I added here the 3 plugins I thought were important. And here are, and I want to talk about these plugins I recommend. The first plugin I would really recommend is undo tree, alongside with set undo file. If you're in Vim, you have to also set your undo undo directory. But if you're in NeoVim, if you're in NeoVim, the undo dir is located, I think, in like local share something, somewhere around there. But if you don't know what undo file does, or the option does, it basically allows you to undo even when you close a file. So if you're like me, you sometimes just open a file, right? And then because like you open a file and then you're typing, and then for some reason you like to quit, or you save and quit. but that doesn't really save any history, right? So like when you do U, right? When you do U, you can undo a specific change. If you set undo file, even when you close the file, like even when you close a buffer, you're still gonna get some you're still gonna be able to undo before you close it. And that's where undo tree comes in. Undo tree allows you to visualize your undos, and I just like it because it like say I have specific change, I want to go back like 1,000 undos. I can see exactly. I'm just gonna show you. I can see exactly what has changed. So I have this keybind, and then when I do control U, except I have to source it. So let me just re-log. When I do control U and then plug install, because apparently I forgot to do that, and then control U, you can see these changes. Here we go. It tells you like right here, it tells you like, you know, what you change, and it highlights it. And it's just really useful with undo file, and that was undo file, undo tree. So again, control U, I just have that plugin in, and I can see the changes to whatever I want to like see. And it's pretty useful, I think, just overall. And then the next one is Vim tags. So Vim tags allows you to generate tag files. So right now, as I said before, I have Control R to like just automatic, like manually manually generate my tags. But I don't think that's pretty useful. Sometimes you want to generate tags based on a file pattern. In this case, like the file pattern I have set it to get.package.json, or like if it has tags in the file directory, in the relative file directory. And it's again really useful because you just have your tags are just being regenerated as you write. You don't have to really worry about it, and this setup works for me. The next thing I like to do is Vim commentary. So I'm just going to source this, and what Vim commentary does, it's made by Tim Pope, first of all, so you know it's good. So the first thing Vim commentary does is it gives you the bind, or the key binding, GCC, and when you press GC in paragraph, you can comment things. I'll comment and comment out things, and it's really useful for like any language, honestly. The next thing is Vim repeat. So sometimes you have plugins and you really want to repeat the same action, and if Vim repeats works with it, you can repeat the same action. For example, I can uncomment and comment out things really fast, and these two things just work really well. The next thing I like to do is Vim surround, because it allows me to change like the surrounding text object. So like if I do change as single quotes to double quotes, it changes the quotes, single quotes to double quotes. Really useful. Now these are all made by Tim Pope, and if you want to see them, I really recommend them. And then the next one I recommend is, or you might want to use them, I don't really recommend it because these are not that necessary, is, so wait, before I do that, before I source it, I want to show you what it looks like without the before and after. So the first plugin, it's a syntax highlight group plugin, and it just gives you better syntax, quote unquote. It's not better syntax, it just gives you more colors. So if we look at our linked list class, right, we've been working with, there's colors, right? there's definitely colors, and there is, for example, if you have a number, it highlights the number that specific color. But some people like really pretty colors, and with this plugin, you get more colors. And with a good color scheme, these colors might look good. And it just like highlights based on the property. Like if it's a lowercase, it just gives you like this light darker green compared to like if it's uppercase. And some people might like it, some people might not. So I just kind of recommend it. The next one is targets. So if we source this, so if we do this and then we source it, you might have noticed that sometimes you can do like Control I, Control in single quotes, and it changes everything in the single quotes. And you would think that you can do like change in curly braces, and you can't. At least in normal Vim you can. And I just want to prove this. So in I'm just gonna reload this. So in normal Vim you can't do change in curly braces. It won't work. But Vim, like this plugin, just adds more targets that I really like, that allow me to like do that. Like I can do, if I source this, I can do change in braces or curly braces. And as you can see, this would be really useful for Java, because like you can do like change in curly braces. I mean, of course you can do like change in body, but sometimes you just want to snap, and you're looking for curly braces, and sometimes you just want to know that's possible. It adds more targets like parentheses. It's a pretty nice plugin. And the last one is auto pairs. If you write like a left parentheses, it's gonna type in the right parentheses, and I like it because it's just something that makes my life easier. If you didn't have this plugin, you would probably do something like maps curly braces to CR, and then like have CR like Control R, and then do this, and then left, probably something like that, which will let you do the same thing as this. But I think that sometimes just having an easy option is fine. And those are all the plugins I really recommend. The last thing I want to talk about from part 4 is how to use sessions. So say you want to keep the same layout and you want to reload it. That's what sessions are for. So say I have like multiple windows, like I'm editing a chain runner, and not that one again. Say I'm editing this file in a vertical split, and then say I have a terminal open in a horizontal split, and let's say I have a new tab with some random gibberish, right? What if I want to like save this layout, and so I can save it to next time? And so next time I just like load it and then have Vim keep this layout. I think it's pretty useful, because when you're working with like Java, you might want to have the same workspace every time. And you can do that with MK sessions. You just do like a name of the file and name it with .vim at the end. And now we can quit. And if we go back, you're not going to have this, like you just open Vim, you're not going to have the same layout. But if you do vim.s, capital S, and then hello.vim, it's there. Everything's there. And this is really useful, because just have the same layout, just get it back into work. That's it. Okay, my afterthoughts after using Vim with Java for about 6 months. So I've been using Vim for about a year now, and I've been learning how to use Java for about 6 months now. And honestly, it's one of the worst languages to work with Vim. You just have to have so many components just to be able to get an efficiency, I would say, that I could have before. Like for example, when I'm working with Python, I can just write code, because I know like Python is just such an easy language to work with, and I can easily write code. and I don't have to like look at so many files. I can just look at documentation, and if I just want to change one thing, I just really have to change it one place. But with Java, that really isn't the case. I spent so many hours just researching how to do some things like this. And as you can see in my video, like, I certainly did it. I certainly have a workflow, and I was able to do so much with both these tools. Like, all these tools, I was able to like have them work together. And at the end of the day, I'm just like a happy person. But I did waste so many hours. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, when I started learning like Java, I heard so many people just use an IDE, and or just use like, yeah, just use an IDE. And I did try to use an IDE, and but one of the things that just kind of like became apparent to me is that IDEs have so many things that as a beginner you don't really understand. Like, it has a debugger, but you don't really know how to use the debugger. It has these build tools, but I didn't even know what build tools were 6 months ago. And now I'm like, but like by using Vim, I was able to discover what all these tools were at my own pace. Something like Visual Studio Code with the Java expansion packs just gives you like so many tools that I don't know how I would use all of them. Like a debugger, yes, that's great, but I didn't know how to use a debugger, honestly. I had to teach myself how to use it. And for IntelliJ, right, you just had so many options. You had to like set the class path, and unfortunately my teacher didn't really teach me everything I needed to know for proper Java development. He just taught me how to do like you know, basic Java code, like writing Java code, or just writing computer science code, just writing programming code, sorry. But I was able to learn this by myself using the terminal and using Vim. I was able to understand how most things in Java kind of work, at least the superficial stuff, you know. I'm not that in depth to Java yet. But yeah, I was able to understand it at my own pace. But honestly, again, these are all things just working together, and I have so many bugs, or sometimes I just have to do so much research just to get something else working. So, yes, I made it work, but at what cost? I think what I'm gonna do after this video, I plan to do two things. I plan to learn how to use an IDE. I plan to try out IntelliJ and see what the hype is about that. Because now that I know how to write Java code, I think I can use it and like use it to its advantage. And then the second thing is, you have seen me explain so many things, but the one thing I'm missing about Vim is how to use Vim script. So this summer, I'm gonna spend time learning how to use Vim script, and also learning Lua for NeoVim, because I heard that's the new fashion. And those are my goals. Did I enjoy using Vim for Java? Not really. But did I enjoy using Vim? Definitely. Honestly, I'm still gonna use Vim, like either way. Like, if we just take a look at this. This is how much I can't quit from Vim. I named this file : :w. It's kind of silly. Like, Vim is just embedded into me, and I can't quit. Thank you for watching this video.